Hey everybody, welcome back to another Maledictor update. We've got a lot to go over this time, so let's jump into it, and hopefully I can make it in under 20 minutes, or at the very least under 30. So first off, we've got fixed a moving wall bug. This is a problem that would happen with these moving walls right here. These moving walls, these can be either 3D models or sprites. Let's see, I can switch that out. You can see that it'll switch between a 3D model and a sprite. And what was happening was when you would switch it to a 3D model, the sprite would actually move up above it. And so what was happening when I was trying to run through this room is I would just stop right here. And I couldn't move for some reason. Turns out that the invisible collision of the sprite was moving up above the gate and would just block you if you had to walk over it. And this never really was an issue before because you never really had to walk over them before. Now, I've focused a little bit more on verticality for this level, so finally found that bug. Now it's fixed, so you don't have to worry about it. And more sprites. Keeping on with the tradition. Interactable flip books. So we already have interactable sprites, which is essentially you walk up to something, you press E, the use button on it, and then it changes based on whatever the interaction might be. So like for you might like draw on a picture, so it'll switch them out. Now flipbooks are just animated sprites, so now they can be animated. So change that. Next, more models and more materials. So I had to change things up a lot, add some new things in for this. It's a new level, so you're gonna wind up with some new stuff. Now I fixed a bug with the bowling game. To be honest, I'm not actually sure what that is. It's been a long month and we got a lot done, so I actually don't remember what the bug was with the bowling game, but it's there, so you don't have to worry about it anymore because it's gone. Next, skee ball arcade game was added in. Show that really quickly here. Let's see. Added desktop audio so you can hear it. And see, it's kind of not traditional skee ball in that you don't really throw the ball, but you select the location, select the angle, and you select the power. I like doing the games like this because this way it feels a little bit more immersive to me rather than locking your camera onto the game or something. And instead allows you to interact with it in the game, so it's like you're actually playing it in the game. So, see, it works, and I am very happy with how much it actually functions like real skee ball. At least in terms of how the ball bounces around and interacts with everything. And just like real skee ball, if the ball rolls back on you like that, you get it back and you can throw it again. So we've got some protection against that sort of thing. And also just like real skee ball, I'm not super great at it, but at least that means it'll be an easy high score for you to beat. And it behaves a lot like real skee ball. I was fortunately able to find some diagrams for skee ball tables online, so I made it as accurate to real skee ball as I could. So I'm happy with it. I think it'll be fun. It'll be a nice little addition into the game. Next, we have got the History of Interest radio show. That is E1M7's radio show added in. And that show is essentially just interesting historical facts, I guess. This one is about the Iron Maiden, which has a much more interesting history than you might think, but not for the reason you might think. So, yeah, I think it's a good one. It was interesting to make and to research, so hopefully that'll be a fun one to listen to. Okay, we've got a lot that we can kind of condense all into one. E1M7 lighting, UVs and model fixes, boundaries, nav mesh, enemies, secrets, pickups, and finished. So E1M7 is finished. I'm really happy that I managed to finish it for this update. I wanted to, but you know, these levels tend to kind of surprise you with how much more work they're going to be, especially with this one because I had, you know, this whole mall to work on in addition to all of this. So it's a big level. I think it's the biggest level in the game so far, but fortunately I managed to get it done and I'm happy with it, so that's great. Well, technically it's not fully finished because we do actually have this this drop off right here. This is where the end level is going to be, but I can't make that until I have E1M8 started. So it's technically not quite finished, but I can't finish it yet until I work on E1M8. Next, supplement pickup added. This is a lot like the health vial pickups in Doom, where it was just, I think, +1 health, but they could overheal you. So this is +2 health, but it can overheal you. And this way, it lets me fill out the levels a bit more, and lets you get a few more pickups, but also adds in a little bit more strategy if you really want to min-max things and be as efficient with your pickups as possible, so that you can pick up the major healing and then, you know, have the supplements saved for later so that you can get the overheal from them, or you can just pick them up as you go. So I like it. I think it's a nice little addition. And heal, weapon, and armor sprites updated. This is a pretty small one, really. Basically, those were added really early on, before I kind of had the visual language of the game kind of fully established. And so I was just updating them because they looked a little out of place. They looked a little too clean. So I went in and I just made some small changes to them so that now they fit more with the rest of the sprites in the game. And ammo pickup amount reduced. This was because I felt like the ammo pickups, like if you had a shotgun pickup, then you get a lot of ammo from that. Whereas if you have just some shells, then you get less ammo from that. I felt like the ammo pickups were giving you a little too much. So it made the weapon pickups feel a little less meaningful. So now the weapon pickups are a bit nicer by comparison. And you know, for certain levels, if you're low on ammo, I can always add more. And it's not necessarily making the player go through with less ammo. It's just making the pickups feel better. So now ammo pickups feel like lesser pickups, and the weapon pickups feel much more like major pickups. IFAC heal reduced. So the IFAC healed a bit too much before. It healed 75 health. That is just about a full heal. So I brought it down to 50 health, which means that I can actually use it in levels. Before, it felt like it healed so much that I couldn't even use it, and I was just having to use bandages all the time, which meant that the health pickups felt boring because it was always the same thing. So now, not only do we have IFACs that we can use more often, but we also have the supplements, so now it feels like I got a lot more diversity out of the healing items. Plus there's also the relic, which is like the major overheal item, which not too many of those in the game right now, but you know, we got more variety, at least it feels like it. Next, fix the IED pickup versus projectile scaling. This is just when you could have the IED as a pickup. You have the pickup versus when you throw it out. The sizes were a little skewed. Now they're about the same. This looks a little bit bigger because it's lit up and it's also floating, but they're the same size now. So now they feel a bit more natural. And they feel a bit more consistent now. The next, enemy code optimizations. This is basically me taking code out of the overall enemy blueprints and distributing them better, either between the enemies that need it and leaving it out of the enemies that don't, or completely removing it from the enemy blueprints and making it its own thing. Like, for instance, the jib explosion, when you jib an enemy and all the giblets come flying out of them. Before, all of that code was in the enemy code. Now I removed it and made it its own code so that when you jib an enemy, it spawns the effect. And so that way, that code only exists when it needs to exist. So that way, I removed that little chunk and some other chunks from the overall enemy code, which makes the overall enemy code a lot smaller and should give some performance increases when you wind up with a lot of enemies. Next. Removed lights on enemies and lights on bullets and sprite-based muzzle flashes. Those three are all kind of connected. Essentially, I tried to remove lights that didn't need to exist. And enemies, lights on them for muzzle flashes were nice before because that was back when I still used transparent sprites on enemies. But now I use lit masked sprites so that now lights don't really go through them, they just shine on them. And the difference there is that when an enemy would shoot their gun and they had a light creating the muzzle flash, the light would go through them and it would kind of glow from the effect. Whereas now, it basically will spawn the light and it'll light up the air around them and the ground, but not them. And it didn't look good anymore. And kind of the same thing with bullets, except bullets didn't really need light bulbs on them so much. So the enemies, the way that I fixed the enemies is I just went into their sprites, and on the frame where they're shooting, I painted in the muzzle flash glow on them. So now they still glow, but now they don't need a light to do it, and it's just a picture. So it's a lot more performative, and it looks better. And then with bullets, I changed them to an emissive material instead of a light. So it's a little bit, I guess it's a little bit better because it doesn't really affect other things. It's not really dynamic like the light was. Is the emissive material just glows, so the bullets will glow so that they're easier to see, but they don't really shine light on other things. So that way it looks a little bit better, and again, it's also just a little bit better for performance. I also removed a fire light from the enemies as well, because of the same reason, it just looked bad. And I just changed their burning sprites to an emissive material instead, so that now there's 2 less lights on the enemies and they look better and perform better. Realistically, it's going to be a small performance increase because those lights were only ever on for really short amounts of time, and they didn't cast shadows. So, not a massive improvement, but still an improvement. And fixed an enemy visual check. This was a problem where, so for the visual check that I'm talking about, it's the enemy checking that they can see you before they shoot you. And so the way that it works is the enemy sees you, they get the attack notifications, and then they go to shoot. And then right before that, they check again to see if they can see you. And that is to prevent an issue with the hit scanners that was happening, where the enemy would see you, get the call to attack you, you'd go back behind a wall, and they would shoot you through the wall. Now they check for a wall, but the problem is that I have it running from checking from the enemy's head, Two. Let's see. If I can maybe pull up the enemy blueprint here. Any day now, Unreal. Oh god. Okay. So you see this little ball here that's eye level. That is where the enemy will look from their eyes. But they were looking to the player location, which is the center of the player, which means that they're checking your stomach, basically. Which means that if you have half cover, cover that comes up to your chest, they should still be able to see you and still be able to shoot you, but they, for all intents and purposes, you were invisible as far as them being able to shoot you. So that was a problem, and it created a lot of really weird instances where it just felt like the enemies broke. So now they check for about your neck. So that way, if they can see there, then they should be able to shoot you. So now it works a lot better, and it feels a lot more responsive. Next. Let's see. Lost my place a little bit. Fixed moving wall sound bug. So that was basically me testing the moving walls before, and I forgot to plug something in. It was having the walls, when you would lower them down, they would actually play for the full sound effect, which I think is like 10 seconds. So if you only needed to run for, maybe a quarter of a second, it was playing 10 seconds. It felt really, really bad. So I fixed that. That was no longer the case. Next, fixed a drone death bug. What was happening with the drones for some weird reason was they would die, and then about a second later they would explode. So, felt terrible. So I went in and I fixed it, so that now, when the drones die, they just blow up. Next, really nice update. Redid sound, touch, and vision detection. So originally I was using the Unreal's pawn sensing system, which is their built-in system for handling vision and sound and touch calls. But the problem with that is that, I didn't build it, so I don't really know how it works. I could understand it enough to get it to work, but when I would run into issues with it, I don't know how it works, so I don't really know how to troubleshoot that much. And so there were weird instances where the enemies would just become completely unresponsive for some reason, and I still don't really know why. And so I figured it was just going to be much better to get rid of that system and make my own. So I still have the original code that I used that I made for when they get a notification that they see you, or when they hear you, or when you've touched them. But now the way that they, when they detect you, is different. It's a system that I made. And so I'm sure if I understood Unreal's built-in system, then it would, their system would be much more advanced, and I would be able to do a lot of really cool things with it, but I don't understand it. So the benefit of doing it this way is that I know how it works, and I can control everything with it. So I can tweak it as I want to, and when something goes wrong, I have a point to look at. I can look at it from beginning to end in the pipeline, I guess, and I can check all along every bit of code to see where issues might be happening. Whereas before, there's just this nebulous gray zone of Unreal's system that I didn't know. So now this way, I think it works. It's working very well, and it feels much more responsive. The enemies feel a lot more responsive to me, and it also has the added benefit of performing a little bit better, I think, because before, Unreal handles their detection systems on tick, which is per frame. You can change that, but Again, I don't know how it works, so I didn't want to mess with it too much, but now the way that it works very nicely for not needing to run on every frame, and it can run very well with still multiple times a second, but it doesn't need to be happening 100 times per second. So now it works well, feels responsive, performs better, and I understand it. So I'm a big fan of this change. Next, removed another particle effect. This time, for sure, it will definitely be the last one. Until the next time. As far as I'm aware, I now have removed all the particle effects, but we've been here about 3 or 4 times before, so who knows? Hopefully this doesn't become a new tradition like the more sprites notice, but who knows? Hopefully it's all sprite based now. Next, the next two are kind of connected. Added recoil and explosion effects and added fall damage effects. This is essentially just some screen shake and screen effects put in. And they're not super dramatic. You actually saw it earlier with the IED. So it basically just will shake your camera or mess with the FOV just a little bit for a very, very short period of time. And when I was showing it to my friend, he didn't notice it right away. I had him trying to find it, and he did not. He couldn't tell what I had changed until I started moving on to like the heavier weapons with the more dramatic effects. Then he could tell, and he could before he even noticed what it was, he could tell that the shotgun felt different. So I think that I've got the magnitude of it kind of dialed in so that it feels not distracting, not obtrusive, but it feels noticeable and makes the weapons feel much better. So I'm a big fan of it. With the fall damage, you can it will play a different effect based on how far you fall, so that now you can kind of feel how far you felt rather than only knowing based on a slight difference in a sound effect and looking at your health bar. Now you actually can feel it, so it feels a lot more responsive and feels better. And then improved jib, pistol, and shotgun sounds. The shotgun and pistol feel a lot better. They sound a lot better, and they feel better too from the previous effect. But then the jibs sound so much better now. I'm very happy with the change in the jib sounds. It actually feels better. Like it felt completely different. Like I had changed so much more than just the sounds with it, but that's all I did. The jibs are a lot better. Still want to work more on them, but I'll work more on all this stuff: sounds, jibs, and polishing a lot of things up. More once we finish E1M8. Speaking of which, now that I finished E1M7, it's on to E1M8. So plans for this coming month is going to be getting the sprites done for the boss for E1M8, then coding in his attacks, and then getting the E1M8 level made. If I can get all the sprites made for the boss and get his attacks coded in, get that all in this month, then I'll be happy. But ideally, I would like to get all that done and start working on the level itself for E1M8. Once I finish E1M8, then I need to get one more arcade game, one more radio show done, and then work on a lot of polish. Just really bring up the standards of the game a lot. Touch up some of the previous levels. Get another alpha test in. Get some more voice lines in. And then I'll be putting the game onto Steam for episode 1 as early access. So, rapidly approaching Maledictor's release here. an early access release, but a release nonetheless. So excited for that, and a lot of work to be done still, but it's feeling good, and I'm feeling very good about the state of the game right now, especially with those last couple of changes that I put in with the enemies. They feel a lot better now, so I'm very happy with that. That will be it for this month. We didn't quite get into the under 20 minutes goal, but we did get into the under 30 minutes goal at least. So hopefully I'll have a good update for you next month. Hopefully it'll be a productive month. So I'll be trying, but I will see you all then. So thank you for watching, everyone, and I will see you next month. Have a good one, guys.